Welcome to the Death to the Org Chart podcast with Jeffrey DeMure, your guide to entrepreneurial freedom. Today, we will be exploring Jeff's Word of the Year. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the conversation.
In life, I've found that when I start with a concept, my opportunity for success is greatly increased. Hello, friends. The value of having an idea about where you want to go and then measuring against that is one way to help you continue to be successful. And I want to see you continue to be successful. So I started doing this thing, bringing this concept, this idea, this principle to my life and to my business several years ago. And I call it the Word of the Year. And the Word of the Year is a concept that I have, a few words that I can say to myself, I can say to the people that are close to me in my relationships and in my business and my family. And it'll remind me and it'll remind them of what's important to me, how I want to try and improve my life and the life of the people that are around me. So this past year, the last part of last year, was a challenging year for me and for my family. And as a result, everything else was impacted by virtue of the challenges that we faced as a family. So what I choose to do is I choose to take those things that aren't so positive, weren't anticipated, and turn them into something that's beautiful, that's valuable, that I can learn from, and then I can teach and share with other people so that they can do the same. With that in mind as a backdrop for how I started 2020, I reflect, I meditate, I pray on what I should be doing in the new year. And so for 2022, this is what I have established as my concept for how I want my year to be. And I hope it helps you. It's 3 words: be, think, do. Start with be. I have to remind my wife regularly, who has as her love language acts of service. She loves to do things, and she does things. She gets so much stuff done that it's exhausting just watching her. I, on the other hand, am a words of affirmation person. That doesn't mean that you should tickle my ears with, vacuous compliments. It just means that I like to get feedback on how I'm doing in life. So that's me and that's my wife. So I've had to remind my wife that we are human beings, not human doings. So that's why I think it's so important to start with the concept of be. What does it mean to be? What it means is to get quiet. I do this every day. I have this habit where every day, and a habit is something that you can do without thinking. That's the value that a habit represents. Developing good habits takes about 3 weeks. And this habit I've established over the last couple of decades. So I start every morning, almost, with some quiet time, about 45 minutes where I'll do some reading, I'll do a devotional, I'll meditate, I'll think about what I want the day to be about. I will just sort of be. And when we all are just human beings, what it gives us the opportunity to have happen is that we get inspired. We get this inspiration based on turning things off, shutting things down, and allowing that unconscious part of our brain that's so important to creativity and to what's next. It gives it a chance to take front stage. And so to have a time every day where I just be. And then there's other times when I will be more programmed about how I be. I started reading a book a while ago, and it's called The Road Less Stupid. And in The Road Less Stupid, one of the biggest things I got out of it is to, on a regular basis, sit down and get quiet with yourself for about an hour. Give yourself, set a timer and ask yourself a question, and then begin to mind map where that question goes. It'll come up. There will be other questions that will come up as a result of it. But just that time to just be and get inspired. So that's where I believe it all starts. And then think. And think, don't overthink. I can fall victim of overthinking things. I have a very active mind. I'm a creative person. I'm an active person, and my mind is very much the same. It can go to a lot of different places if I don't take my thoughts prisoner. If I don't say, no, I'm not going to go there. So thinking in a deliberate way after I've been inspired, and think about how I can put things together. And I think, don't overthink. Because when we overthink, what we do is we end up talking ourselves out of something a lot of the times. What happens is we think about all the reasons that things can't work. And so just getting it down, just be, think, don't overthink, And think is the plan part, putting the plan together. Who, what, why, where, when, and how. The deadline. And the value of deadlines, the biggest value component that I found for deadlines is how am I going to feel when this is done, when this deadline, when this initiative, when this thing that I'm planning, when it gets done, how's that going to make me feel? When I do that, then I imagine myself being there almost, because it puts in my heart the things that are important to me relative to think. I've learned this trick, and it has to do with giving myself credit for where I'm at right now in life. I set goals for myself and for my business regularly and for the people around me, much to their chagrin sometimes, because I think that they're marvelous and they're tremendously successful and we can all be more successful. So my encouragement is to help them get to that next level, and myself as well. I would never ask somebody to do something I wasn't worth doing. So we want to bill X amount this year, okay? Just as a big objective for the year. And then your mind kicks in and it maybe says, we can't do that because of X, Y, Z. And this is the one word that I've learned to use that helps modify that. And just by virtue of this word, it kind of changes everything in my heart. We can't do that yet. We can't do it yet. It's like, oh, okay, so it can be done. It can be done. And what that does is that informs the think part, the plan part with the things that need to be done, the small goals that have to be set up so that we can accomplish that big goal. That's the value during the think part of saying, we can't do that yet. I can't run a marathon yet. I can't fly a fighter jet yet. But are there things that we can put in place that'll help get us there? Well, there absolutely is. That's the difference between people that are tremendously successful and people that are just unhappy because they can't understand why others can get ahead. That's how important it is. And then there's the do part. There is a time to do things, and that is after you have been inspired and you have a plan. That's the best time to be able to do things. And when that happens, all of a sudden the people around you, they believe that there's this big idea for why we do what we do. It can be in your relationship, with your spouse. It can be with your executive team. It can be with your board of directors. But when you start with this be, think, do approach, it gives tremendous credibility to the way that you run your life. Now, that being said, let me give you a few outliers, right? Things that don't necessarily work well. And there's a couple of mindsets, and I've been through this myself. I used to be the fireman arsonist, right? I was a solution in search of a problem. And I know a lot of successful people that are not going to be as ultimately successful as they could be because they never change that about how they live their life. They never take time to get inspired, to think about a plan, and then to do. And so what happens is they're just responding to things. They're looking for things to happen in life that they can bring their considerable skills. These are very smart people. These are very, in a lot of cases, successful people. But I watch them undermine the relationships that they have, the business connections that they have, because they fail to do these things. These are people that are really fast on their feet. They're quick thinkers, and they use that as the primary operating system for how they get through life, both personally and professionally. And it is exhausting to be around people like that. So my encouragement is just be aware. If you're like that and you're happy that way, okay. But if that's not working out for you, or more importantly, for the quality people around you, because it might work for you, but that could be really selfish because it doesn't necessarily help improve the lives and the success of the people around you. And the primary goal for a leader is to help make other people, other situations, other forms of business, to make them better. This is one category of that. So how does this apply to the front stage and the backstage? When you're on the front stage, you have to be creative. You have to respond, right, to new client opportunities. You have to be able to think about how you do what you do. This is where the culture of the organization comes through. So this process of be, think, do, it happens individually, but it happens from a corporate standpoint as well. And what this means is the culture. Right now, we're going through a website redesign, and things have conspired to create this sort of perfect overlap of a couple of different things. One of which is a new tool that we found it's a thinking tool, and it helps organize our thoughts about what it is we do. And what I love about this tool is that it doesn't say, do this, do this, do this, do this. What it does is it puts questions out there. It provides a framework for asking good questions. And when you do that in the right way for your organization, you can also do it on the front stage. And this is why it's an honoring thing to do. It's saying to people, tell me what your DNA is. Tell me what's unique about you. And if you ask those questions, a lot of times people kind of freeze over because it's a very intimidating question. So what we've learned to do through Dan Sullivan and Strategic Coach is, what are you frustrated about right now? What are you excited about right now? Tell me what you would like to see your life be 3 years from now if we were having this little get together. What would you like your life to be? Your business. What would you like your business to be? So when we're equipped with those questions, then that's the inspiration. Then we can think about it and put a plan together for how we can help people be successful in that category. And then we just have to do it. Doing is more a function from a big picture standpoint of the backstage. This is production and operations. This is where after you've been inspired, after you've developed a plan and you've thought about it, think, don't overthink, then you can execute on that. And the value for the backstage is that, that backstage people are wired a lot differently than front stage people. Front stage people tend to be a little bit bigger than life a lot of times, right? They're outgoing, they're extroverts, and there's still extroverts in the backstage, but they tend to be more pensive, more linear. So they need to have specific direction about how we're going to accomplish the things that we've set out to do. That's the value that it represents. And what it does, it mitigates frustration. You're still going to have back and forth, right? There's still going to be questions to be answered from going from the front stage to the backstage. So there's good interaction there. But as linear as we can make it, then we save the bandwidth in our hearts, our creativity, and our brains. We save that for the issues and the problems that come up, and not just meeting what we promised to deliver. That's the great value that represents. So, word of the year, it's something to focus on. It's something to share with your family, with your team, with the people around you. It's a measuring stick to be able to say, this is how we're doing. And the great value that represents is, even if you don't get to the extreme that you set out, you're going to be further along than if you hadn't done anything. So for the new year, for us, we're going to be, think, don't overthink, and then we're going to do. We're going to get great results, and I think you can too.
Thank you for joining us for the Death to the Org Chart podcast with Jeffrey DeMure. Be sure to subscribe on Facebook, iTunes, YouTube, and anywhere you listen to podcasts. To get more information about Jeff, or to order your copy of the book, Death to the Org Chart, go to dttoc.com. Go create the freedom you were meant for.